Do you ever feel like your own mind is your worst enemy? It's like there's a constant voice in your head, just chattering away, nonstop. It brings up old mistakes, worries about the future, judges everything you do, and just fills your head with noise. You try to think your way out of it. You make lists. You try to force yourself to be positive, but it just feels like you're wrestling with yourself and you're losing. It's exhausting, isn't it? That feeling of being trapped inside your own head, wishing you could just find an off switch for your thoughts and finally feel some peace. Well, what if I told you that off switch exists? What if the entire struggle, all the anxiety, the worry, the stress, what if it all comes from one simple misunderstanding about how your mind works? A few months ago, I stumbled upon a little book that completely turned my world upside down in the best way possible. It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen. And it's a total game changer. It showed me the true source of all that mental noise and, more importantly, how to quiet it down without a fight. If this sounds like something you need, do me a quick favor and tap the like button. It really helps get this message out to more people who might be struggling, just like we were. Today, we're going to dive deep into this. We're going to uncover the massive difference between thoughts and thinking. And trust me, they are not the same thing. We'll also explore a wild idea that you don't actually need to think positively to feel happy. And we'll talk about how to tap into a natural state of peace that's already inside you. And here's why you absolutely have to stick with me until the very end. Reading about these ideas is one thing, but using them is what creates real change. So at the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how I personally used the principles from this book to overcome a massive, stressful decision I was facing in my career. I was stuck, paralyzed by overthinking, and this book gave me the exact key to find clarity and move forward. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. The real source of our unhappiness. So, let's get right into the biggest idea of this book, the one that everything else is built on. The root cause of all our suffering, our anxiety, stress, anger, sadness, is not what happens to us. It's not our job, our bank account, our relationships, or anything outside of us. The root cause of all our suffering is our own thinking. I know. When I first heard that, I was skeptical too. It sounds like someone saying, "It's all in your head." But that's not what this means. The book makes it clear. Bad things happen. Pain is a real part of life. People get sick. We lose people we love. We face financial hardship. That's the first arrow, as Buddhists call it. That first arrow is the actual event. It hurts, and that's unavoidable. But the suffering comes from the second arrow. The second arrow is our thinking about the first arrow. It's the story we tell ourselves about what happened. It's the constant replay, the what ifs, the should haves, the blame, the worry. That second arrow is optional. We are the ones who fire it at ourselves. Let me give you an example from the book that makes this crystal clear. Picture this. You're sitting in a coffee shop. You're having a really bad day. You're stressed about a deadline at work. You just had an argument with a family member, and you're worried about a bill that's due. Your mind is a storm. You feel heavy, anxious, and the world looks gray. Now, sitting at the table right next to you is another person. They're in the exact same room, smelling the same coffee, hearing the same background music, but they are having the best day. They just got some good news. They're feeling grateful, and they are peacefully watching the people walk by outside, a small smile on their face. Same event, same reality. Two completely different experiences. Why? Because the experience isn't created by the coffee shop. It's created by the thinking happening inside each person's head. We don't live in reality. We live in a world of thought. We experience life through the filter of our thinking. The book shares a powerful story about this, a classic Zen tale about a monk and an empty boat. There was a young monk who was trying to learn how to meditate, but he was getting incredibly frustrated. Every time he tried to find silence, something would distract him. Another monk walking by, a cat brushing his leg, the wind in the trees, the birds chirping. He would get so angry. He complained to his mentor, "How can I find peace when everything is trying to disturb me?" His mentor told him, "The point is not to get angry with the things that disturb you." So the young monk decided he needed a quieter place. He went down to a nearby lake and tried to meditate on the shore. But then a flock of birds landed in the water, splashing and making noise. Again he got angry. Then he had an idea. He saw a small boat tied to a pier. He thought, "I'll row out to the middle of the lake. There, nothing can possibly disturb me." He rowed the boat to the center of the lake, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. For a couple of days, it was perfect. Pure silence. He was so happy. But on the third day, as he was deep in meditation, he felt his boat rock. He heard a splash. Someone was out here. He started getting annoyed. He opened his eyes and saw another boat heading right for him. He shouted, "Hey, steer your boat away. You're going to hit me." But the boat kept coming. It was just a few feet away. He yelled again, furious now. "Who are you? Why are you doing this in the middle of this huge lake?" Then, bump. The other boat hit his. He was enraged. He stood up to scream at the person in the other boat, ready to give them a piece of his mind. And to his complete surprise, he found that there was no one in the boat. It was just an empty boat that had probably drifted loose and been carried by the breeze. In that instant, all his anger vanished. It just disappeared. How can you be angry at an empty boat? And then he understood. He remembered his mentor's question. Do you know what is really making you angry? He realized it was never the other monks or the cat or the birds or even the boat. It was his own reaction to them. His anger came from his own mind. He realized that all the people and situations that made him angry were just like that empty boat. They didn't have the power to make him angry without his own reaction. This is the core of it all. Our suffering isn't caused by the empty boats that bump into us throughout our lives. It's caused by our thinking about them. The huge difference between thoughts and thinking. Okay, so if thinking is the problem, what do? Do we just stop having thoughts? That sounds impossible, right? And this is where the book introduces another idea that was a huge aha moment for me. There is a massive difference between thoughts and thinking. Let's break this down because it's so important. Thoughts are like clouds passing in the sky. They just appear. A thought is a noun. It's a thing that happens to us. You can't control what thought pops into your head next, any more than you can control what shape the next cloud will be. These thoughts come from somewhere beyond our personal mind, from what the book calls the universe or infinite intelligence. They take no effort. They just arrive. Thinking, on the other hand, is a verb. It's an action. It's what we do with the thoughts. Thinking is when a thought cloud appears, and instead of just letting it float by, we grab onto it. We analyze it, judge it, wrestle with it, and follow it down a rabbit hole. Thinking takes a ton of energy and effort. Let's do a little experiment right now. One from the book, so you can feel the difference for yourself. I'm going to ask you a question. Just notice the very first thing that pops into your head. Don't try to figure it out. Just let an answer surface. What is the dream amount of money you'd like to be making a year? Pause for a second. An answer probably just popped into your mind, right? Maybe it was a number like 100,000 or 1,000,000. That first effortless answer, that was a thought. Notice how it just appeared. It was probably kind of light, maybe even a little exciting. Now, for the second part of the experiment. Take that number and I want you to start thinking about it. Really think. How would you actually make that much money? Is that realistic? What would your family say? No one you know makes that much. It's probably greedy to want that much money. You don't have the skills to earn that. What's happening now? Can you feel that? A heaviness? Doubt? Anxiety? Maybe a little bit of guilt. That, my friend, is thinking. You took the light, simple thought, and you started layering on all of your judgments, your fears, your past experiences, and your limiting beliefs. You see the difference? The initial thought didn't cause any suffering. It was neutral, maybe even felt good. All the suffering, the stress, the doubt, that came from the thinking you did about the thought. The book uses a simple chart to explain this, and it's so helpful. Thoughts come from the universe. Thinking comes from our ego. Thoughts feel light. Thinking feels heavy. Thoughts are expansive. Thinking is restrictive. Thoughts are creative. Thinking is often destructive. Thoughts feel like love. Thinking feels like fear. Thoughts are effortless. Thinking is laborious. This distinction is everything, because it means we don't have to get rid of our thoughts. We just have to stop getting so caught up in the thinking. We can let the clouds float by without having to jump on every single one and ride it into a storm. The myth of positive thinking. So this leads to a really interesting question. If we feel what we think, does that mean we have to force ourselves to think positive thoughts all the time to feel good? You know what I'm talking about. The whole idea of just repeating affirmations over and over, trying to drown out the negative thoughts with positive ones. It can feel like a constant battle, right? Well, here's another mind-blowing concept from the book that totally changed how I see things. You do not have to have thoughts or think at all to feel positive emotions. Let that sink in. Our natural default state of being is peace, joy, and love. We don't have to create it. We don't have to work for it. It's already there. It's our factory setting. Thinking is what covers it up. The author uses a beautiful example. Look at a baby. A healthy baby that is fed and warm. What is their natural state? Are they stressed about the future? Are they anxious? Are they self-conscious? No. They are just in a state of bliss, happiness, and contentment. They are just being. That is our natural state before we learn to pile a lifetime of thinking on top of it. Let's do another quick experiment from the book to prove this to yourself. I want you to recall a time when you felt the most joy, the most love, the most peace you've ever felt in your life. It could be watching a beautiful sunset, holding a newborn baby, laughing with friends, or a moment in nature. Really try to connect with that feeling for a moment. Feel it in your body. Okay. Now, in that peak moment of pure joy and love, what thoughts were going through your mind? What were you actively thinking about? What's crazy is that for most people, the answer is Nothing. There were no thoughts. You were just present. You were just experiencing the moment. There was no separation between you and the sunset, or you and the laughter. You were just in a state of being. And for those of you who might say, well, I was thinking how grateful I was, the book asks a brilliant follow-up question. Did you feel the joy and love before you had the thought, I am grateful? Or did the feeling come after the thought? Almost always, the feeling comes first. The thought is just a label we put on the feeling afterwards. The feeling didn't come from the thought. The feeling came from a state of no thought. This is incredible. It means that peace and happiness are not things we need to find or create through thinking. They are what emerge when we stop thinking. The book uses an analogy of a speedometer in a car, but instead of miles per hour, it measures thoughts per minute. When we're just cruising along with very little thinking, we're in the green zone. We feel calm, peaceful, and happy. As we start to overthink, analyze, and worry, the needle starts to climb. We get into the yellow zone, a bit of stress, a bit of anxiety. And when our mind is racing at full speed with constant internal chatter, the needle is in the red zone. That's when we feel overwhelmed, burned out, and miserable. Notice, it's not the content of the thinking that's the primary problem. It's the amount of thinking. It's the simple fact that we are thinking so much, period. The less thinking we have going on, the more space there is for our natural state of peace, joy, and love to surface. We don't have to build a new happy state. We just have to clear away the rubble of our thinking that's burying it. How to actually stop thinking. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we stop thinking when it feels so automatic, like we can't control it? The most amazing and kind of paradoxical thing about stopping our thinking is that we don't have to do anything. In fact, trying to do something is just more thinking. The author uses a perfect analogy. Imagine I give you a glass bowl full of murky, cloudy water. The water is full of dirt and sediment. If I asked you to make the water clear, what would you do? Most people would say they'd try to filter it, or boil it, or stir it, or try to pick the dirt out. They would try to do something to it. But what's the simplest way to make the water clear? You just let it be. You set the bowl down, and you don't touch it. You just let it sit. And over time, what happens? The dirt and sediment naturally settle on their own to the bottom, and the water becomes clear all by itself. Our mind is exactly like that bowl of water. Our thinking is the dirt that makes everything feel murky, cloudy, and confusing. When we feel stressed and unclear, our instinct is to try and fix it by thinking more. We try to stir the water to make it clear, but that only makes it murkier. The way to find clarity is to just let your mind be, to stop disturbing it, to become aware that you're caught in a storm of thinking, and just by being aware of it, you stop adding more fuel to the fire. You allow the thoughts to settle on their own, and when they do, your mind returns to its natural state, clear. It's not about fighting your thoughts. It's about detaching from them. It's like being stuck in quicksand. Your instinct is to struggle and fight to get out, but that only pulls you under faster. The only way to survive quicksand is to stop struggling, lie back, and let your body's natural buoyancy bring you to the surface. The only way to break free from our thinking is to stop struggling with it and trust that our natural inner wisdom will guide us back to clarity. Now, a big question comes up here. If we stop thinking, won't we just become lazy? Won't we lose our edge and stop getting things done? How can we possibly thrive in the world without thinking? The book answers this beautifully by talking about the state of flow, or what athletes call the zone. When are artists, musicians, or programmers doing their absolute best work? It's when they're so captivated and engrossed in what they're doing that they lose all sense of time and self. In those moments, are they overthinking every move? No. They are in a state of non-thinking. They are in flow. Their best work comes from that quiet place. Peak performance happens in the absence of thinking. Thinking only hinders performance. So, stopping the constant, neurotic thinking doesn't make us unproductive. It actually makes us more effective because we get out of our own way and allow our deeper intelligence to work through us. Creating from inspiration, not desperation. This leads us to one final huge question. What about our goals, our dreams and ambitions? If we stop thinking and just become peaceful, do we have to give up on everything we want to achieve in life? When I first understood this stuff, this was my biggest fear. I thought, okay, does this mean I have to become a monk and give up all my worldly desires? The answer, thankfully, is no. In fact, this understanding is the key to achieving your goals in a way that actually feels good. The book explains that there are two sources from which our goals can come: desperation or inspiration. Goals from desperation feel heavy. They come from our ego, from a place of, I'm not enough, or I don't have enough. They feel like a burden, a have to. We want to start a business because we have to escape the job we hate. We want to make $1 million because we have to prove our worth. These goals are always a means to an end. We think achieving them will finally make us feel whole. But you know what happens? Even if we achieve a goal from desperation, the feeling of not enough comes right back, and we just set another bigger goal, hoping that one will be the magic bullet. It's a never-ending chase. Goals from inspiration, on the other hand, are completely different. They feel light, expansive, and energizing. They feel like a calling. It's a powerful force of life wanting to be expressed through you. It's why a painter paints or a singer sings, even if they never make a penny. It's a want to, not a have to. We feel pulled by a force to create something. We're creating from a place of abundance, not a place of lack. We're not creating something to get a feeling. We are creating from a feeling of wholeness. When we stop our frantic, desperate thinking, we don't stop having goals. We actually make space for the right goals to emerge. We allow those thoughts of divine inspiration to come through. So how do we create goals from inspiration? The book gives us a fantastic question to ask ourselves, to quiet the desperate ego and tap into our true desires. Ask yourself this: if I had infinite money, had already traveled the world, had no fear, and didn't receive any recognition for what I do, what would I do? What would I create? When you ask a question like that, you remove all the ego's reasons for doing things. The answers that bubble up in that quiet space. Those are your true inspired goals. Those are the things your soul is calling you to do. And pursuing those goals won't feel like a grind. It will feel like play. How I used this to make a huge decision. Okay, so reading a book is one thing, but actually applying it is what really matters. So, as I promised, I'm going to show you exactly how I've been using this. A few months ago, I was facing a huge career choice. I had an opportunity to take on a new project that meant moving to a completely different city. and I was completely paralyzed by overthinking. My mind was a whirlwind. I had spreadsheets with pros and cons lists. I was thinking about the money, the new city, leaving my friends. What if I hated it? What if I failed? What if I stayed and regretted it forever? My thoughtometer was deep in the red zone. I felt so heavy and anxious, I could barely sleep. I was trying to think my way to the right answer, and it was just making everything worse. I was stirring that murky water like crazy. Then I remembered the lessons from Don't Believe Everything You Think, and I decided to try it. First, I practiced awareness. I just acknowledged what was happening. I told myself, okay, the problem here isn't the decision. The problem is my frantic thinking about the decision. My suffering is coming from the second arrow, from all the stories I'm telling myself. I am the one firing that second arrow. Just admitting that took a huge weight off. I wasn't a victim of the situation. I was a victim of my thinking. Second, I decided to let go. This was the hardest part. I had to consciously decide to stop trying to figure it out. I literally said out loud, I'm not going to think about this for the rest of the day. The answer doesn't have to come right now. I took the problem and metaphorically put it on a shelf. I decided to trust that the answer would come when it was ready, not when I forced it. This was me letting the murky water sit still. Third, I created space. I followed the Zen story of empty your cup. My cup was overflowing with worries and analysis. I needed to empty it to allow for any new insight to enter. So I did something completely unrelated. I went for a long hike up a nearby trail. I left my phone in the car. I didn't listen to music or a podcast. My only goal was to be present, to feel the sun on my skin, to hear the crunch of leaves under my feet, to notice the trees. For the first 20 minutes, my mind was still racing, but I kept gently bringing my attention back to my surroundings. I was just letting the thought clouds pass without grabbing them. And then it happened. It wasn't a lightning bolt or a dramatic moment. I was just walking, looking at the view, and suddenly a feeling of calm washed over me. And in that calm, the answer just appeared. It wasn't a logical conclusion from my pro-con list. It was a simple, quiet feeling of knowing. It felt light. It felt clear. I knew which path to take. The inspiration came through as soon as the desperation to figure it out was gone. The clarity was waiting for me underneath all the noise. All I had to do was get quiet enough to hear it. Your path to peace. This entire journey, this incredible book, it all boils down to one powerful, life-changing truth. The secret to peace isn't controlling your thoughts. It's realizing you don't have to believe them. Your mind will always generate thoughts, just like a radio station will always broadcast static and songs. You don't have to listen to every song or analyze every piece of static. You can just let it play in the background. You can realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of the thoughts. And in that space of awareness, you will find your natural state of peace, clarity, and well-being. It's been there all along. If anything in this video resonated with you, I can't recommend enough that you go and buy the original book by Joseph Nguyen. It's a short read, but every page is packed with wisdom that could genuinely change your life. The link is in the description. Supporting the author is so important. And finally, what was your biggest aha moment from this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what resonated with you the most. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next summary. Thanks for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next video.